In the heart of Umueze, a village known for its scenic beauty and close-knit community, Nkechi and Chidi were a couple admired by many. Their story began on a clear, starry night during the village's New Yam Festival. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly cooked dishes, and the sound of drums and laughter resonated through the village square. Under the soft glow of lanterns, Nkechi, a young woman with eyes that sparkled like the morning dew, caught Chidi's gaze. He was tall, with a commanding presence, and a smile that could warm the coldest of hearts. Their courtship was a thing of beauty. Chidi would visit Nkechi's family's compound, bringing gifts of yams and palm wine, as was the custom. They would sit under the old mango tree, talking for hours about their dreams and aspirations. Nkechi spoke of her love for children and her dream of being a teacher, while Chidi, a skilled craftsman, shared his passion for woodworking and his desire to create beautiful things. The villagers watched with joy as their love blossomed. Chidi was hardworking and respected, while Nkechi was known for her kindness and generosity. Their wedding was a grand affair, with the whole village in attendance. The women wore brightly colored wrappers, and the men donned their best traditional outfits. The couple danced to the rhythm of the drums, their love evident in every step they took. As the years passed, Nkechi and Chidi welcomed two children into their lives: Amarachi, a bright-eyed girl with a curious mind, and Uchechi, a boy with a mischievous grin. Their home was filled with laughter and love, and they seemed like the perfect family. Nkechi took pride in caring for their children, teaching them the ways of their culture, and instilling in them the values of honesty and respect. Chidi continued to work as a craftsman, creating beautiful wooden sculptures and furniture that were sought after by people from nearby villages. However, beneath the surface of their happy life, Chidi struggled with a secret. For years, he had wrestled with feelings he could not understand. He loved Nkechi and their children, but there was a part of him that felt incomplete. He had always pushed these feelings aside, focusing on his work and family, but as time went on, they became harder to ignore. Chidi's restlessness grew with each passing day. He began spending more time away from home, often taking long walks in the forest or visiting neighboring towns under the pretense of work. Nkechi noticed his absences, but chose not to question him. She trusted him implicitly and believed that whatever was troubling him, he would share when he was ready. One day, while delivering a piece of furniture to a neighboring village, Chidi met Ikenna, a gentle and kind-hearted man. Ikenna was new to the area, having moved from the city to escape the pressures of urban life. He was a teacher and an artist, with a passion for painting landscapes. The two men quickly struck up a conversation, bonding over their shared love for art and nature. As they spent more time together, Chidi felt a connection with Ikenna that he had never felt before. They would sit by the river, talking about their lives and dreams, or walk through the forest, admiring the beauty of the natural world. Ikenna's presence was a balm to Chidi's troubled soul, and he found himself drawn to the other man in a way that both thrilled and terrified him. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Chidi and Ikenna sat by the river. Their feet dipped in the cool water. The conversation flowed easily, as it always did, but there was a tension in the air that neither man could ignore. Finally, Ikenna broke the silence. "Chidi, there's something I need to say," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I have feelings for you. I know it's not what you're used to, and I understand if you don't feel the same way, but I had to tell you." Chidi's heart raced, and he felt a rush of emotions: fear, confusion, excitement. He had never admitted it to himself, but deep down, he knew that he felt the same way. He looked at Ikenna, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, and felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time, he allowed himself to acknowledge his true feelings. "Ikenna, I don't know what to say," Chidi stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been struggling with these feelings for so long. I've tried to ignore them, to pretend they don't exist, but I can't anymore. I, I care about you too." The two men sat in silence, the weight of their confession hanging in the air. It was a moment of both liberation and fear, as they knew that their feelings for each other would not be easily accepted in their conservative village. But in that moment, none of it mattered. They were finally being honest with themselves and each other. As Chidi and Ikenna's relationship deepened, Chidi knew he couldn't keep his secret from Nkechi forever. The guilt of betraying her trust and the fear of hurting her weighed heavily on him. He wanted to be honest, but he was terrified of the consequences. He knew that in their village, being gay was not accepted, and he feared the backlash from both the community and their families. One evening, as Nkechi was preparing dinner, Chidi sat her down. The children were playing outside, their laughter echoing through the open windows. Chidi's hands trembled as he took a deep breath and began to speak. "Nkechi, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I've been keeping a secret, and it's time I told you the truth." Nkechi looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. She could sense the gravity of the situation and braced herself for whatever was to come. Chidi continued, "I've met someone who makes me feel alive in a way I never thought possible. His name is Ikenna. He's a man, and I have feelings for him." Nkechi's face paled, and her eyes widened in shock. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under her, leaving her in freefall. She struggled to comprehend what Chidi was saying, her mind racing with questions and emotions. "A man!" she whispered, her voice barely audible. How could you do this to me, to our family?" Chidi looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "I never meant to hurt you, Nkechi. I tried to fight these feelings, but I can't deny who I am anymore. Ikenna and we love each other." Nkechi's heart shattered into a million pieces. The man she loved, the father of her children, had fallen in love with another man. She felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she struggled to hold back the sobs that threatened to escape. "How long has this been going on?" she demanded, her voice trembling with emotion. "About a year," Chidi admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to hurt you, but I can't keep living a lie. I need to be true to myself." Nkechi felt a wave of anger wash over her. "And what about our children? What about our family? Did you think about them? About me?" Chidi looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. But I can't change who I am. I never wanted this to happen, but I can't ignore my feelings anymore." Nkechi stood up, her hands clenched into fists. "You don't get to apologize and make everything better, Chidi. You made a choice, and now we all have to live with the consequences." She turned away, unable to look at him. The pain was too much, the betrayal too deep. She felt as if her whole world had crumbled around her, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her once happy life. As Chidi left the house that night, the weight of his decision settled heavily on his shoulders. He knew he had hurt Nkechi, and he knew that their lives would never be the same, but he also knew that he couldn't continue living a lie. He needed to be true to himself, even if it meant facing the consequences. The news of Chidi and Ikenna's relationship spread quickly through the village. In a place where everyone knew each other's business, it wasn't long before whispers turned into open gossip. The villagers were shocked and scandalized. Many couldn't believe that Chidi, a respected craftsman and family man, had left his wife for another man. Nkechi became the subject of pity and judgment. Some villagers whispered behind her back, wondering what she had done wrong to drive Chidi away. Others openly criticized Chidi and Ikenna, condemning their relationship as unnatural and sinful. The village elders were particularly vocal, viewing the situation as a violation of their cultural and religious beliefs. As Nkechi walked through the village, she could feel the eyes of the villagers on her. She heard the whispers, and saw the sympathetic looks. It was as if she had become an outcast, shunned by the very community she had grown up in. The pain and humiliation were almost unbearable, but she held her head high, refusing to let the judgment of others break her spirit. At home, Nkechi faced the daunting task of explaining the situation to their children. Amarachi and Uchechi were too young to fully understand, but they sensed the tension and sadness in the air. Nkechi did her best to reassure them, telling them that their father loved them and that they would always be a family, even if things were different now. Meanwhile, Chidi and Ikenna faced their own challenges. They knew that their relationship would not be accepted by the village, but they hadn't anticipated the level of hostility they encountered. People avoided them in the market, and some even refused to sell them goods. The whispers and stares were constant, a reminder of the judgment they faced. Despite the challenges, Chidi and Ikenna found solace in each other. They knew that their love was real and that it was worth fighting for. They leaned on each other for support, finding strength in their bond. Ikenna, who had faced discrimination in the city, was more accustomed to dealing with prejudice. He encouraged Chidi to stay strong and not let the judgment of others define them. As the weeks turned into months, the village's initial shock began to subside. The villagers gradually became accustomed to the new reality, and the gossip died down. However, the scars remained. Nkechi continued to feel the weight of the judgment and pity, while Chidi and Ikenna faced ongoing prejudice and rejection. Despite the challenges, Nkechi refused to let her life be defined by the actions of her husband. She knew she had to be strong for her children and for herself. She poured her energy into her work, taking on more responsibilities at the local school and becoming more involved in the community. She also rekindled her passion for teaching, volunteering to tutor children in the village. Nkechi found solace in the support of her family and friends. Her parents, though shocked and saddened by the situation, stood by her side. Her close friends provided a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. They encouraged her to focus on her own happiness and to not let the judgment of others bring her down. As time went on, Nkechi began to rebuild her life. She found joy in the simple things, spending time with her children, tending to her garden, and enjoying the beauty of nature. She also started to explore new interests, taking up painting and pottery. These creative pursuits became a form of therapy, helping her to express her emotions and find peace. Nkechi, standing on the hill overlooking the village, felt a sense of contentment. She had faced heartbreak and betrayal, but she had also found strength and healing. She knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but she was ready to face them with grace and resilience. She smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, and looked forward to the new beginnings that awaited her and her village.